Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be creating a card that was designed by design team member Melania using product from the new November 2017 release. We are going to be using the new linked chain circle frames to add a window to the front of our card, and then we're going to embellish it with the new best friend stamp set, and I've already went ahead and stamped out all of the images that we're going to be using from this set. So I've stamped out the girl image that's holding the cat, as well as 2 additional cat images and the dog image. And then I've also done all 3 of those little hearts there. So what I'm going to do is just use copic markers to do all of the coloring, and I'm keeping everything relatively simple. I'm not getting too crazy with blending. These images are somewhat smaller, so I find that it doesn't take too much color to add a really nice look to these designs. So I am going to speed through this just because there is quite a bit of coloring and I didn't want to have too much time in the video spent on the coloring process, but I did want to share the different colors that I used to color in all of the parts. So for the girl image, I'm just using some basic browns for her hair. That's my favorite color combination anytime I do brown hair is E55, 57, and 59. And then I'm using some E00 and E11 to color in her skin. For her dress, I'm keeping everything pretty similar to how Melania colored her images. I wanted to kind of replicate all of the color choices that she used. So I used a mint green there on her little shirt, and then I'm adding some coral colors to her dress. I did end up making her shoes the mint color as well. I just thought it looked cute to kind of have her shoes match her little shirt. And I'm just going in now with a little bit of the darker colors of the coral to add in a little bit of shading to give her dress a little bit more dimension. Once I have her little dress colored there, I'm going to move on to the kitty cat. So for the cat here, I'm just going to be using some warm gray, and I'm barely adding any color to him at all. I'm going to do his little pink ears there first. And I'm just using simply the W1 just to add a little bit of color to the outside area of him. And then I added pink to all of the characters' cheeks just to give them a fun and playful look. For the little dog image down here, I'm using some really light browns. I don't want him to be super dark. And then for these ones here, I'm pretty much doing the exact same pattern on the cats that Melania had done on hers. So I have one little tabby cat there, and then I also have the one with the little gray spots. And I felt like he was a little bit too white still, so I did go over him completely with a W0 just to kind of even out the color on him. I finished off their ears, and then I ran all of these through my die cutting machine with the coordinating dies. So now that I have all of the images colored and die cut, I can go ahead and start to assemble all of the pieces of the card. So I have a top folding A2 size card base from white cardstock, and then I also have a piece of peach Bellini cardstock that is cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and this is going to be the front panel on the card. I've taken the second largest linked chain frame here, and I'm going to die cut it right through this peach Bellini cardstock piece. So I'm just kind of figuring out exactly where I want it, and then I'm just going to run this through my die cutting machine. And what I'll be left with is an opening in this peach Bellini cardstock, and then I'll also have that little chain link piece there as well as the center. Now we don't need either of those pieces for this design. I simply wanted to create the window. Now I also want to create a window in the front of the white cardstock base. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put that peach Bellini piece directly onto my card front, and I'm going to open it up so I don't cut through the back. And then I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine once again, just like this. And this is just going to ensure that the opening on the card base is in the exact same position as it is on that peach Bellini card front. So now I have all of my die cut pieces. I have both of the openings cut into the card front as well as the card base. And for this one here, I'm going to keep that chain link white piece. I want to use that in the finished card. So I'm going to pop out all of the center pieces and then set that aside until I'm ready for it. Now I need to stamp the sentiment onto the card front, so I'm going to do that with my MISTI just in case I have to do any second stamping, but you definitely don't have to have a MISTI to do this. Now from Melania's card, she did use the sentiment with Versamark ink and white heat embossed it. I decided to change mine up and stamp it with black ink versus doing any heat embossing. I just like to show the difference between the white, what she used on her card, and then also stamping it in the black. I like the boldness of the black on the card front, and I like how it kind of ties into the line detail around the stamped images. Because we've created that window on the front of the card, when we have the card closed, we're going to be able to see through to the inside. So we're going to add some inking on this inside panel here with some distress inks, just to give it an ombre look when the card is closed. So what I'm doing first is starting with my Worn Lipstick Distress Ink, and I'm just using an ink blending tool and blending this into the cardstock. And I'm just kind of starting at the very bottom and working my way up towards the top and really blending that out to get a nice smooth finish. Once I get kind of into the center area of where that window is going to be, I switched over to the spun sugar and I blended continuously up towards the top. And what that does is it leaves us this really pretty pinkish color inside on the card that has a really nice ombre effect. And we're going to create a little scene on the inside of the card, and it's going to look really great against that inked background. So now that we have all of the inking done and the card base is complete, we need to add a piece of acetate to the inside of this card so that we have a little window covering on that window opening. So I'm just taking some adhesive and putting it all the way around that circle, and I've cut my acetate piece slightly smaller than the card front just so that it fits nicely in behind there. So I'm just going to adhere that directly on, and then I'm just going to score that to give it a nice crisp edge. And then we're going to finish the front by adding on the peach Bellini piece that we've die cut. Now, since we die cut these together, we know that this is going to line up perfectly over top, and we're going to have that great window detail with the ombre inking that we've created on the inside. I'm adding adhesive to that white chain link frame that we saved from the die cutting we did earlier, and I'm just going to adhere that right into the opening since we know it's going to fit perfectly in there. And having the acetate is great because it allows us to adhere this frame directly to the acetate piece. So now that we've completed that, the front of the card is pretty much done except for all of the images that we're going to add. So I'm going to start first by creating the inside scene. So I'm going to position that girl image right in there, and I kind of want to position her a bit to the left and just kind of make sure that when I close the card, we're going to be able to see everything. So I like to just kind of temporarily put everything in place and open and close the card, just kind of making sure that everything is fitting where I want in the scene. And that little heart there was a little bit too low. It wasn't showing through the frame. So I did shift that up and kind of moved it around. And then once I was happy with where I had everything positioned, I just pressed down really firmly to hold them in place. I'm also going to add one of the kitties to the inside of the card, just down by her feet. And that is going to complete the inside scene, and I can add the two little characters on the outside. I'm using foam adhesive to attach the dog and the cat on the outside, and I'm just kind of positioning them on each side over top of the sentiment area, kind of looking into that frame piece. So it kind of looks like they're looking into the little girl and the cats on the inside. And then once I have those on there, I'm going to add that last little heart detail that we had stamped and colored just above the little dog image there, and that is going to complete our card. Now on Melania's version, she also added some sequins to the front of the panel right on the acetate, so you can definitely do that as well. I decided to leave them off for this example. Thank you so much to Melania for designing this cute card that we were able to recreate in today's video, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in another video soon.